Okay, hi there. Here we are finishing up the Basic Principles of the Science of Mind by Dr. Frederick Bales. We are on lesson 12 today. So this is on page, let's see, I will start reading from page 165. As the student has made his way through this basic course, it must have become evident that the art of healing consists of something more than a mere knowledge of the techniques. He must have seen also that thought is paramount and that the practitioner deals with nothing else. It naturally follows that our thoughts are tools that the infinite sculptor uses to liberate the perfect figure that lies hidden in the block of rough stone. We have said repeatedly that thoughts are things. The practitioner is constantly trying to produce things or results by the use of his thought. Therefore, the quality of those things will depend upon the quality of his thought. This quality is his consciousness, which we spent some time on in lesson 5 and have touched upon in other lessons. If his consciousness be of a limited order, the things that issue from it will be of a limited order. If it be of a high order, the manifestations will be equally high. Consciousness is not easy to define, nor are the steps into a higher consciousness easy to outline. The teacher can lead the student by the hand along the pathway of methods. The student himself is responsible for the development of his consciousness and must take alone those last steps that lead him into high consciousness. Man's consciousness is dependent upon his concept of God. All that any of us know of God is what we have experienced of him. Many persons know a great deal about God, but the practitioner must know God directly. By God, we mean, of course, the infinite superintending and creating intelligence that lies behind and throughout the physical universe. Clearing the pathway. High consciousness is a high state of mind partaking of the qualities of spirit. Therefore, if one is to develop it, certain attitudes must be removed from the thought life. No hostilities. The first attitude to go must be envy, jealousy, censoriousness, suspicion, hatred, resentment, and certain kinds of fear. We must be broad enough to know that all men are on the pathway to individual freedom, and that those who seem cruel or wicked are only blind. If those people would come to see more clearly the realities of life, they would cease to be cruel or selfish or heartless. Therefore, they are to be pitied, not censored. It is not hard to figure when one understands, it is not hard to forgive when one understands this. We do not hate the hunchback or the person with a club foot. We recognize him as one suffering from a deformity, and we are sorry for him. An ugly disposition is as truly a mental and personality deformity as those physical handicaps. Therefore, we forgive. No self-pity. We have said before that self-pity also must go. It is not only a hindrance, it is a sign that the student has not clearly seen that he alone draws into his life all outer experiences. If these are oppressive, the only place where they could have been fabricated is in the buried centers of his own deeper mind. His own thought attitude is responsible. Nothing else has power to bring his troubles upon him. He does not have to change others, but positively he must change himself. When he has done this, he will be agreeably surprised to see how others change toward him, and how he will draw less and less of the disagreeable into his life. He will never again defeat himself by feeling sorry for himself. No negative discussion. The practitioner will cultivate the habit of not discussing the frailties or meannesses of others. The infinite does not see them, therefore the practitioner should not see them. This will help him to rise above those resentful feelings that hamper the work of some practitioners. It will help prevent him from taking sides in domestic or legal problems that he is helping to solve. He must remain impartial if he is to help. This latter is highly necessary in a practitioner. It disputes he should never treat that someone else will change his conduct or that another person will do anything. He should treat that everything hidden is being uncovered and that right action is emerging out of what looks like wrong action, so that whatever is just shall come forth into manifestation. Our human judgment may err in taking sides. The infinite never errs. Building the consciousness. Excuse me. There is one perfect consciousness in the universe, that of the infinite. Man's consciousness rises in proportion to his union with the infinite consciousness. Following are some of the steps that advanced students have taken in making their way up into the rarefied spiritual consciousness of infinite spirit. Recognition of inward compulsion. There has always been a recognition of the inward pressure of the infinite on man. Every higher aspiration we have ever had, every noble impulse, every desire for a higher level of understanding or of living is a clear evidence of the inward thrust of the infinite outward. I'm now moving to page 167. Willingness to cooperate. There must be a willingness to respond and to cooperate with the infinite in this process of growth and enlargement. The thought of infinite intelligence is perfect. The self-same image of perfection is always held deep within man by the knower within him. The way he responds to what life does to him will be the indicator of his response to the image of perfection. At this stage of man's evolution, it seems impossible for him to achieve absolute perfection in his life. The aim rather than attainment is the chief consideration. His very willingness to let the absolute work itself out through him is the key to his growth. He starts to picture to himself the characteristics of the infinite thinking and endeavors to allow these to express themselves through him, knowing that he grows through surrender to them. A growing awareness of unity. There is no otherness in the universe. One of the basic ideas that the infinite must evidently hold is that there is nothing but itself in the universe. All is from God and of God. The entire universe and every tiniest part is some part of God. There can, therefore, be no real conflict between them or within them. The belief in duality must be wiped out and replaced with a belief in unity. Here begins the fundamental state in building consciousness. We have covered this to a certain degree in a previous session, but it is such an important subject that it needs amplification. Since there is no otherness, the infinite can never see the ugly, the distorted, the failing, the inharmonious, the ill, the wretched. That man's dual vision constantly sees. God is of purer eyes than to behold evil. This being so, the practitioner must cultivate the habit of denying the reality of those negative experiences he treats for, of closing his eyes to them as much as he can, and of seeing that what God has made is very good. Negative experiences may be apparently real in the experience, yet not in ultimate reality. Rising in thought. It is essential that the student keep the picture of the unchangeability of the originating intelligence. It stands back of the universe like a great beacon, sending the beam of perfect thinking throughout the universe. It cannot lower its beam to anything less than perfection, for then it would not be perfect. Men's purpose in living is to raise his level of thinking to the height of this beacon. As long as he grovels in his own weaknesses and resentments, his beam of thought is far below the resistless beam of God's perfection. He may wring his hands and cry for help, but the heavens seem completely unresponsive to him. Page 168. Man has the powers of selection and initiation, which are part of his nature as they are of God's nature. The response to his prayer or treatment comes from choosing definitely to turn his eyes away from his own weaknesses, stop bewailing his imperfections, and rise in thought to his oneness with that perfect beam. When he does this, his thought is immediately infiltrated by and saturated with this beam of God's perfect thinking. And by the law of unification, the perfect beam of infinite power flows through his chosen picture and condenses it into form. It might be incorrect to call this an answer to prayer, for it is the nature of the beacon that we call God to flow through and convert into form any picture that we have selected as being the desire of our hearts. Spirit's view of the universe. We have pointed out several times that we should not look upon the appearance, but upon the heart and core of the perfection. For this reason, we should constantly remember that Spirit sees no distortion, and we must see none. Spirit sees no malignancy, no debts, no quarrels. Always and forever it sees everything as very good. The spiritual consciousness aligns itself with Spirit's viewing of the universe. Spirit sees only life, always in the beauty of holiness, which means the beauty of wholeness. Beauty is symmetry without distortion or imbalance. Disease is imbalance. All problems are imbalance. Spirit sees all things always in one perfect equilibrium. The practitioner cultivates the ability to deny what seems most real to the eye of the senses and to penetrate deeper to the true heart of the matter, which is the unchanging and unfailing continuity of the original image of perfection. The masterpiece revealed. Perhaps an illustration from the world of art will, in a way, make clearer the unchanging and unfailing continuity of the original image of perfection. Art dealers have sometimes resorted to a ruse to get a masterpiece out of Europe. Since governments wishing to keep certain priceless paintings in the land of their origin have forbidden their export, a crafty dealer has taken such a masterpiece to a sixth-rate artist, had him daub a mediocre picture over the original, and then presented it for export. Until the system was discovered, many valuable works of art came to this country in this way. Upon arrival here, they were placed in the hands of a person who knew how to restore the original by gently rubbing with oils. With infinite care, the daub was gradually rubbed away until the masterpiece stood forth once more in all its original beauty. The practitioner must always know that beneath the surface daub of sin, illness, poverty, and misery lies the original masterpiece. Thus, his trained thought removes the deceptive surface and lets the original creation stand forth. But just as the restorer cannot create a masterpiece but only restore it, so the practitioner cannot create perfection but only uncover it. Before he can do this, however, he must be sure it lies beneath the surface appearance. This is spiritual thinking. Spiritual thinking. Normal people shy away from anything that savors of sanctimoniousness, holiness, or otherworldliness. Many have the idea that in order to think spiritually, they must become a little peculiar. As a matter of fact, there are no more normal persons in the world than truly spiritual thinkers, for they see things in perspective. They see all outward things as real in experience and as experiences to shun or enjoy. But they see also the unreality of everything, but the eternal values. They know that man's real world is his inner world of ideas. They are not intimidated by so-called incurable diseases, knowing them to be only the ugly daub superimposed upon the real beauty of wholeness. Neither are they caught up by the false values of the material. They recognize that money, seen, grows out of wealth, unseen. They know the frightening experiences of life to be only thought forms that they themselves or their fellows have created. Constantly, their spiritual vision pierces the veil of the material and penetrates to the eternal realities, allowing these to come forth. Spiritual thinkers are nonetheless human in their physical appetites and feelings, but they invest even these with the deeper beauty of the spiritual, thus enhancing their pleasures without ever being entrapped or enslaved by them. The chief aspect of this spiritual view of life is that everything is kept in its proper place and nothing assumes undue proportions. Only thus can they keep themselves unspotted from the world, even while walking in the world, but not of it. The fruits of spiritual thinking. Spiritual thinkers can be the instruments of healing because trouble, which is real and pressing to others, is seen by them as a chimera, which has no real existence, no real power, no real effect, and no valid ground for continued existence. They are thus able to declare its nothingness. I've turned to page 170. Since diseases and other miseries are basically thought, set and molded into form, spiritual thinkers know that their enlightened thought can dissolve the unwanted form and set up a perfect thought pattern, which the infinite creative mind will follow to bring the perfect form into manifestation. We have said that the spiritually minded man is a normal and practical man. Now, there is nothing practical about bad or destructive habits, and the student of the science of mind will find as he progresses that such habits will drop away from him naturally and easily, not through willpower, but because he loses all desire to continue what is obviously a handicap to him. But the dropping away will be the effect, not the cause of his spiritual advancement. A person may never have had the faintest impulse toward crime or infidelity. He may also be free from such habits as drinking, smoking, and cursing. Yet, if he gives false weight and value to material appearance, he will still be an unspiritual person. Spirit sees no obstruction or delays. Another aspect of the thinking of spirit is that spirit sees no obstruction and no delays in the completion of its plans. Man becomes a spiritual thinker when he aligns his thinking with this attitude. The average person gets a desire, sees a goal, wishes for a result. Then, even as he is caught up in happy anticipation, the negative appears. Across his line of vision float menacing obstructions, doubts, and reasons why this thing he desires might not come true. One characteristic difference between the earthy thinker and the spiritual thinker is this. While the former is thinking up all the reasons why a desire cannot come true, the latter is assembling all the reasons why it can come true. Spirit lives in the eternal now. Man lives in a world of time and space. With spirit, to envisage a thing is to cause it to be created. Instantly, it is done. Man falsely sees his desire as something to be achieved or demonstrated at some later date. Consequently, the thinking of many is unlike that of spirit and is therefore unspiritual. Spirit sees the end from the beginning. In the last lesson, we said that at the moment of conception, the whole man lies already in that fertilized ovum. He is not yet formed in all or any of his parts, but he is seen by spirit as final and complete. In like manner, our demonstration is seen by spirit as final form at the moment we conceive it. Yesterday, today, and forever are as one moment to spirit. Living in the eternal now, for spirit thinks not in terms of time, process, development, or manufacture. It says, let there be, and there was. I'm on page 171. Mind carries out the creative process. Spirit leaves all process, manufacture, evolving, and development to infinite mind, the working side of the Trinity. This the practitioner must also learn to do, for when he thinks of obstruction and delay, he is thinking unspiritually. He must learn to say, let there be, and it is so. To repeat from an earlier lesson, when one's desire is born, every channel for its fulfillment is immediately opened. The only thing that can close those channels is our belief in obstruction and delay. I'm circling that. Hold on, I like that. Consciousness of omnipotence, all power. To develop the consciousness in the direction of no obstruction or delay, spend time contemplating the inner meaning of omnipotence. Not just a lot of power, but all power. There is no opposing, hostile power. There could not be. There cannot be. There is no obstructing power, whatever except a false belief in obstruction. During treatment, think up every reason why this desired experience should come forth. Recall successful healings or demonstrations that you have heard about or read about or know firsthand. Dwell on the reasonableness of believing that omnipotence can never be delayed. Think how, under the intelligent handling of the omnipotent, the huge mass of suns and stars has never been able to delay its movement 1 second. The Niagara River cannot hold back from the falls. 50-story buildings are held close to the spinning earth by intelligence, acting as and called by the name of gravity. One student reported that he developed a tremendous sense of authority growing out of his awareness of omnipotence that he acquired in this way. Quietly, he thought of all the power being generated by the automobiles on the single boulevard on which his office is located. Millions of horsepower rolling by easily, effortlessly every day. Then he thought of all the power of all the cars on all the highways of the world, of all the tractors on all the farms, the steam shovels, the machinery in all the factories, the motor power of all the airplanes, the ocean liners, the steam trains, the diesel trucks, and the surges of electric power all over the globe, until he was awed by the tremendous output of power through the hands of man. He told himself the imposing might of all the earth's motors compared with omnipotence is as the power of an ant compared with that of an elephant. Page 172. Of course, this analogy is weak and imperfect because one cannot measure omnipotence. It is beyond a quintillion units of power as represented by this comparative weighing of power, as seen in ant and elephant. Finally, our student thought, all this power flows through my word when I speak it for myself or for some other person. Nothing on earth can stop or obstruct it. Nothing in heaven wishes to stop or obstruct it. It is done unto me now, at this moment, as I believe. These are only a few of the ways in which each person can develop his consciousness of this and other attributes of the infinite. There are scores of other ways. Final word and blessing. In conclusion, I would encourage you, the student, by saying that the moment you ordered this course, you started currents of mental and spiritual energy flowing that are continuing to operate within you, whether you are conscious of them or not. You are making greater progress than you know. People in this work always do. Sometimes they become discouraged because they constantly see loftier heights that their feet have not yet trod. The very seeing of the heights is an evidence of growth. Very often it takes others to call attention to the difference now showing in them. The spiritual person is always much more spiritual than he realizes. His discontent with his unspirituality is an evidence of spirituality. His desire plus his study sets up a spiritualizing process deep within him, and as this is not seen on the surface, he usually does not know that it is going on. But there is a constant, steady purification of the soul that surrenders to these ideas. He can depend on this. There is a beautiful hymn sung in churches that begins, "Take time to be holy, speak oft with thy soul." This the student must do. Consciousness grows wherever and whenever the student communes, often with his innermost self. For in every man, as there has been in all the loftiest thinkers of all times, is that place where spirit with a small s, with spirit with a large S, can meet. In the silences of one's thinking, he comes close to God, and in that mystical meeting is communion. Out of communion comes understanding. Out of understanding comes power, and out of power comes results. Let us not be weary in well-doing, for in due season we shall reap if we faint not. So page 173 are the special helps in study and practical applications. I'm going down to the questions. Number 1, what are some definite statements you can make about consciousness? Number 2, in clearing the pathway for the development of high consciousness, what are some attitudes that must be removed from the thought? Number 3, in proportion to what does man's consciousness rise? In proportion to what does man's consciousness rise? Number 4, what are some steps in building a high consciousness? And number 5, what does spirit view? How does spirit view the universe? Number 6, what do we mean by spiritual thinking? Number 7, how does the attitude of the unspiritually minded person differ from that of spirit in regard to completion of desires? What are the respective places of spirit and of mind in the creative process? That was number 8. Number 9, how can one develop consciousness of omnipotence? Number 10, if one does not progress as fast as he would like, what attitude should he take? And then we have some collateral reading suggestions. Edith Armstrong, Help Yourself. Frederick Bales, Your Mind Can Heal You. Ernest Holmes, Mind Remakes Your World. Mind Remakes Your World. Irvin Seal, 10 Words That Will Change Your Life. And on the next page, 174, practical application. Thought training. As you meet in your daily associations or see as you walk down the street people who are ill or have physical malformations or have defects of character or personality or undergoing some financial difficulty, practice looking right through the outer appearance to the perfect self within. In doing so, you are developing your own healing consciousness and helping them at the same time. A writing suggestion. Now that you have come to the end of this course, look back over the past weeks and set down a record of your progress. In the first lesson, I suggested that you list the changes that you would like to come about in your life, and also the changes in the thought that you should make. If you have exceeded the mark that you set for yourself, be very grateful that you have been able to do so. If you have fallen short, do not be discouraged. Good seed always grows. Treatment for general good. This day I face toward the dawn of the infinite healing presence. I recognize it like the sun coming over the hills in an ever-growing sense of warmth, light, and life. As I share the sun's rays by placing myself where they can play freely upon me, so I now place myself in the attitude of receptiveness to the infinite healing presence, whose activity I welcome. I bathe my consciousness in its steady, serene, healing rays. I relinquish all personal struggle and effort, allowing myself to be played upon by that which is bringing healing and fulfillment in its invisible rays. And it is so. So moving on to page 175, it says, examination. Within these pages is a set of questions by which you can test yourself on your understanding of this course. It is recommended that you review the 12 lessons, select a time and place free of interruption, put aside all books and notes, and focus solely on each question without any time restraints or distractions. Respond to each question with full, comprehensive, and explicit answers that clearly convey your thoughts and understanding of the topic. To help yourself write a logical answer, imagine you are trying to describe the concepts to someone who knows absolutely nothing about the science of mind philosophy. By doing so, your answers will be thorough and concise. After you have completed the examination, compare your answers with the work you did during the course for each of the 12 lessons. You will note that the questions are arranged in the same order as they appear in their most specific and longest form within the course, while shorter answers and related concepts are spread throughout. To assist your understanding of the material, be sure to keep your answers in a notebook or file for future reference. Make definite progress cultivating the healing consciousness. And so on page 177, here are 10 questions. Explain why we prefer to use the term heal rather than cure. Number 2, explain why our thought has power. Number 3, why does power flow to the focus of attention? And what is the significance of this? Number 4, explain fully and clearly the creative process in the infinite and in ourselves, using a chart or charts, comparisons, and all means possible for absolute clarity. Number 5, what is a treatment? Number 6, how can we gain a sense of authority in treatment? Number 7, list and comment on at least 5 practical points in treatment. Number 8, write a treatment for yourself or another person for any condition using any method. Number 9, why is it significant that infinite mind is the knower at all times in our lives and specifically in treatment? Number 10, what does a healing consciousness mean to you, and how can one proceed definitely to cultivate its influence? And turning to page 178, here are thoughts from Dr. Bale's writings. The science of mind philosophy is not a few psychological tricks. It is a life to be lived. The central core of the science of mind teaching is that there is a power within every man, constantly available, that can lift his life to higher levels, from illness, defeat, and frustration into health, mastery, and success. Right at the place where life seems hard is the power to make it easy. Right in the middle of the deepest discouragement is the place where hope springs eternal. He who has decision of character, who stops his flight, who turns and faces life where it is hardest, steps immediately into the charmed circle of his divine heritage. Life is always for us, never against us. We are against ourselves unknowingly. Man has never intended to live a beaten, discouraged, or ill life. He was made for the very best of health and happiness. Life is a mirror. It can reflect only that which is placed in front of it. If we want peace in the world, in the nation, in our relations with others, we can never get it by presenting a face distorted by rage, anxiety, hatred, envy, jealousy, or criticism. Healing comes by a recognition of the fact that the power that built the body did not immediately lose all interest in it. It has as much interest now as when it carefully built and assembled it cell by cell. That's good news. When the fear of the condition outweighs the knowledge of the power, one cannot be healed. When the knowledge of the power outweighs the fear of the condition, one can be healed. Sensitiveness and self-pity are signs of emotional immaturity. The slave of self-pity is of all men most miserable because he need never take more than a few steps beyond his front door to find someone giving him a look or a word which confirms his false belief that the world is against him. Love is the one great irresistible force of the universe, which sweeps away seeming obstacles and brings health, happiness, and prosperity to every single soul which opens itself up to its inflow. When we give thanks for what we do not have, we are giving substance to things hoped for, evidence to things not seen. God can be found in the beauty of a sunset, in the petals of a flower, in the planting of a garden, or in the laughter of children. Man lives within his physical body for a few short years, but he is not the body. He is the never-dying thread of eternity, stamped with an immortal life that had no beginning and shall have no ending. And on page 179, extending the benefits. Many of you began treating for family and friends at once on beginning your study of this course. Others did so on my suggestion at the end of Lesson 8. Now I am making a further suggestion, that you treat regularly for the raising of the consciousness of all students of this course with the resulting solution of their problems and the fulfillment of their most cherished desires. At the same time, you will be receiving the benefits of their treatment for you. This can be a very important and valuable outcome of your taking this course. In the lessons on treatment, we found that a practical point is the naming of the person for whom the treatment is given. This is to make it definite in the mind of the practitioner. But infinite mind, carrying all knowledge within itself, knows who and where each person is. Not knowing the names of your fellow students is therefore no hindrance to your giving effective treatment for them. I am making another suggestion also. This one to follow up what I said in the introduction about the impact of the thought of thousands of students on the world. My suggestion is that you treat regularly for all people. The following is a guide. I know there is but one source. All men have come from that same source. We are all brothers, whatever our nation, race, language, religion, or other particular beliefs. We are all human beings first and members of some particular group only secondarily. We all have the same inner aspirations. As I have come to see these fundamentals, so all men have it within themselves to see this great truth through the knower within. Infinite mind, which surrounds us all and is in us all, is now revealing ourselves to ourselves. So we see that the way of harmony and cooperation will bring well-being to the family of man. I know that this consciousness is now becoming the consciousness of all men everywhere. The law of harmony is all-powerful. I release this word to infinite mind, giving thanks that it is so. And that is the end of the workbook. I'll see you in class. Thanks. Bye.